Welcome to Forest of Oak, Lesson 9, Spell Writing. A spell can be worked in many ways, from a simple pointing of the finger to a complicated ritual involving all sorts of herbs and crystals, and of course any variation in between. As a kitchen witch, I do prefer to keep things simple, so I am sharing my kitchen folk magic spells with you, but also delving into different types of spells, how you put them together, how to work with them, and what you need. There are a lot of things in the universe that we don't understand. When something is meant to happen, it will, whether you cast a spell or not. But you can help it on its way by guiding and encouraging it, and maybe even tweaking events a little too. What will happen for sure is the boost of confidence and happy buzz you will receive as you cast it. So you also get the positive vibe that you are putting something into action. What exactly is a spell? From the dictionary, which is always interesting to see, the word spell means a spell is a series of words that has magical powers. If you're under a spell, then what you do is out of your control. Your thoughts and actions are dictated by the spell. Spell can refer to the magic words you say, or it can describe being under the influence of those words. Quite possibly, the most common question I get asked when people discover I am a witch is, do you cast spells? And to be honest, although it is part of my way of life to do so, it is not something I do every single day. If I have an issue or a problem, then I tend to look for the mundane resolution first. However, it is a wonderful way to bring about things that you desire or need and to create a better life, not just for you, but for your family and friends. If you have the magic at your fingertips, why not use it? But remember that with power comes responsibility. In its most simple form, a spell is the wish or desire to bring about change, whether it is in your life or that of others. Add to that your own will, intent, belief, and energy, and you can make change happen. Although it sounds straightforward, a successful spell working takes thought, focus, and energy. If you don't believe in what you are doing, then the chances are that the result will be zero. Badly put together spells, or those cast in anger, also have a habit of going wrong, sometimes with disastrous results. Spells in general do have a habit of doing their own thing, and often have unexpected results. Basically, I wholeheartedly believe that the universe knows best, and what you want isn't always what you need. The universe has a habit of stepping into magic and diverting it. Anyone can cast a spell, but the result will differ depending on the strength of will, intent, focus, energy, and commitment of backing it up the spell with actions. For example, there is no point in casting a spell to find a job and then not actually applying for any. The universe isn't going to drop your dream job straight into your lap. You also must believe the spell will work. Any negative thoughts about the outcome of your spell before or after you have cast it will have an impact on your results. If you think your spell won't work, then it won't. The energy you put into the spell will follow your thoughts and affect the outcome. If your thoughts are negative, then the outcome will not be as you intended. So after you cast a spell, only allow your thoughts and actions to be positive ones that will reinforce your spell. And just to be really confusing, there is also the train of thought that once you cast a spell, you should forget about it completely. Follow your intuition on this one. I think it also varies depending on the spell, because some spell workings need keeping an eye on, and others may also need a regular boost of energy. Visualization is also key. You need to be able to clearly picture your desired result when you are working your magic. Using finding a job as an example again, you receive a chance to interview for a position. You decide to cast a simple spell to secure a successful outcome from that interview. During the spell, you may wish to visualize yourself at the interview, answering all the questions with ease and confidence and with a smile on your face. See yourself wearing the clothes you plan to wear and shaking hands with the interviewer. Then maybe you visualize accepting the position and seeing your name on office stationery or something of a similar nature. By visualizing yourself in the position, you have put your consciousness there. Now, all your body must do is follow that path. Ethics. This will depend on your own personal feelings. The suggested guideline is do not cast spells to alter the will of another or to cause harm. Also, to never cast spells for others without their permission, even if your intent is pure. But, and here is the thing, you are the one deciding to cast the spell, so it is your choice to make. You may feel that the need is justified to cast a bad luck spell on another, or even a curse. But it is not my place to judge, or to tell you what you can and can't do. Just make sure that you think it through properly and are mindful of any return. It also pays to bear in mind, if you do cast a curse or a hex, be aware that if the person you are sending it to realizes where it came from, they may very well send it back. Intent. For me, this is key to any good spell. You need to have a solid intent for the magic to happen, and by intent I mean the determination, intention, and purpose to make this work. You also need to have the will, that pure resolve, drive, and motivation to back it up. Vocalizing your intent. I prefer to have something pre-written before I actually perform my spells. You don't have to do this. Some people prefer to work off the cuff, and that's fine. Your aim here is to speak your intent and tell the universe what it is you desire. This can be a chant that rhymes or just words from the heart, whichever you choose. The universe will hear and respond. Correspondences. Think about correspondences. This could include the timing of your spell, according to the phases of the moon or the day of the week, which herbs and crystals to use in your charm bag, or what colour candle to use. My only advice with this is go with your intuition with correspondences. If something doesn't feel right to you, then it won't draw the right focus from you. As well as having physical items like candles and herbs that are part of your spell, you may also like to give some thought to some items to help set the mood, like incense or the colour of your altar cloth. Type of spell. Not all spells need to be cast in a ritual circle with the quarters called and deities invoked. It just depends on how much energy and time you want to put into your spell. As a kitchen witch, I like to keep it simple, but as always, the choice is yours. If you want to perform a full ritual around your spell, go for it. Alternatively, you could just visualize a protective circle of light, or if, like me, you feel your house and sacred space are already cleansed and protected, you don't need to work a ritual. A list of different types of spells can be found further down in the lesson. Where to start? So, you've decided to go ahead and cast a spell. Where do you start? Here are some basic guidelines to help you write your first spell. What you need to decide first is what is the purpose of your spell. But have you also covered all the other options first? Is there a mundane solution that will bring the same outcome? If you are set to work a spell, make sure that you have put some thought into it and ask yourself if you are willing to put the work into it to back it up and follow it through. It is a pointless waste of time and makes a mockery of the craft if you just go into it half-heartedly. Then write down your intent and be as detailed as you can. If your intent is to find a job, be very specific about what job it is that you want or need and when you would like to have that job by. When writing out your intent, think about answers to the following questions. Who, what, where, when, why, how. Some answers you may write down are who, me, what, a new position of employment, where, within such and such company, when, October 2012, one time ago. Always put a specific date of when you need the spell to manifest. Why? to gain secure employment and financial stability. How? By being a successful candidate at the job interview. When I cast my first spell, it took me forever. I researched, I wrote it all out in detail and spent ages setting it all up. It was a slow process, but each spell I cast after that became more refined and generally faster to work. These days, I tend to work more by instinct and don't write it all down first. I follow my intuition and let it guide me as to where the spell wants to take me and what it needs. This sounds in complete contradiction to my strong guidelines above, but it comes with experience, and I always make sure I am still very precise with my wordings and my intent. In fact, I encourage you to follow your intuition when putting a spell together. Be guided by what words, herbs, oils you need, and trust your inner voice. Just make sure you are specific. You don't have to write a beautiful sonnet or rhyming poem to go with your spell, but the words must have meaning. Your aim here is to speak your intent and tell the universe what it is you desire. This can be a chant that rhymes, or just words from the heart. Whichever you choose, the universe will hear and respond. Choose the type of magic you want to work with, whether it is candle magic, a cord spell, creating witch bottle, whatever method feels right for that spell. Next, you will need to gather together the ingredients, and that might be a candle, corresponding herbs and/or oils, paper, pens, matches. Write a list of everything you will need and gather them all together in one place. You might even want to decorate your altar or space to tie in with your spell work. This isn't essential, but is always an option. Choose your ingredients carefully, trust your intuition, and be guided about what items you need and what they will bring to the spell working. You can layer the power of your spell magic by using corresponding items, such as working the spell on a certain day of the week or phase of the moon. Spices, herbs, oils can all be added in for extra power. Using a particular colour candle or altar cloth will also boost the magic. Your ingredients will also need charging or activating before you use them. They need to know what magic you require them to work. I like to hold the item, herb, crystal, candle, whatever it might be, in my hand and draw energy up from the earth and down from the sky, channeling it through me, adding my intent and visualizing my desire. I send the energy down through my hands and into the item. Never draw energy from your own body because you will end up exhausted. Mother Nature is more than happy to send you energy, just use your body to channel it. Note: I don't believe herbs for magical use need to be expensive or picked at dawn by a virgin maiden wearing a red silk underwear. But use what you have to hand. Grow your own herbs and dry them, or forage in the woods and by the roadsides. Purchase bunches of fresh herbs at farmers' markets, or big bags of dried herbs at Asian markets, or buy them in your local supermarket. Really, it is okay. If you are worried about how pure they are, then just cleanse them by visualizing a clear white light, removing any negative energy. You are going to charge the ingredients for your spell with your intent anyway. I also intend to avoid any spell that lists 73 different ingredients, including exotic ones that I would have to order online and have shipped halfway across the world. Personally, I prefer to work with what I can easily and cheaply source. Call me lazy, call me tight, or call me a kitchen witch. I don't care. It works for me. The same goes for candles and materials. In an ideal world, I would love to be able to afford beautifully crafted, eco-friendly candles, but they aren't always readily available, and they are not usually very affordable. I do understand why, the time and the cost of the ingredients used. I work with candles purchased from 99p dollar stores and often find candle holders and scarves for use for altar cloths in thrift and charity stores. I have never had any problems and to date have not been struck down by the gods for using such items. Use what you have to hand, use what you can afford. It sounds like a lot of work, And sometimes it can be, depending on how complicated you want to make the spell. However, it doesn't have to be, and I encourage anyone who is inexperienced or unsure, to start simply. All you need to cast a spell is say a wish to the moon. Write your desire on a slip of paper and burn it, or light a candle and visualize. It really can be that simple, but it is interesting to add all the other bits and bobs as you gain experience. Spell making is personal, and you will need to find out what works best for you. Once you have all your items prepared, you need to decide whether to cast a circle or not, or whether you want to perform a whole ritual or not. The choice is yours. When you are ready to perform the spell, take it slowly and carefully and be guided by your intuition. It doesn't matter if you stumble over the words in the chant or spill herbs all over the table. Hey, it happens. Keep going and follow your spell to the end. Once you have finished with your spell work, don't forget to ground. You will have raised and worked with a lot of energy, and you don't want to hang on to it. Let it go. Otherwise, you may find you are incredibly tense and on edge, and it can give you a heck of a headache. Work with a tree grounding exercise, visualizing you are a tree, sending your roots down into the earth, allowing the excess energy to flow through the roots into the earth. Or you can place your hands, palm down, on the floor and release the energy back into Mother Earth. And of course, you can always eat something to ground. Cake and chocolate are the obvious choices. Note, my advice to you is never to cast a spell when you are angry, tired, or feeling poorly. The magic will definitely go squiffy. Types of spells. Candle spells are one of my personal favourites. For a basic candle spell, you raise energy and push it together with your intent into the candle. Then as the candle burns, your energy is released and your intent is taken into the air by the candle smoke. You can also tie some colour magic into your spell by using a corresponding coloured candle. Using herbs for candle magic is simple and easy. You can anoint the candle with essential oil first and then roll the candle in dried herbs, or you can sprinkle the dried herbs on the top of the candle. This works well with tea lights. If I sprinkle herbs on the top of a pillar candle, I like to then seal it by dripping more candle wax from another candle over the top of the herbs. Anointing your candle with essential oils adds to the power of your intent and aligns them with your energy. You can also use magic powders on your candles. If you use rolled beeswax candles, you can carefully unroll the beeswax sheet and sprinkle the herbs or magic powder into it and carefully roll it back up again. Decide on your intent, select the candle you wish to choose, and then use the corresponding herbs and oils whose magical properties align with your magical intent. You can make up batches of dressing oils very easily. Use a base oil such as almond or sunflower oil and add your essential oils and herbs to it. You can even add small crystal chips to the bottle too, or a sprig of herbs. Visualization, meditation, is another simple method and can be used on its own or in combination with other methods, but this should always be included in your spell. For this to work, you simply visualize your intent playing out the way you would wish it to. Medicine bags, mojo bags. You could make a medicine bag which contains items that are symbolic to your spell's intent. This could contain crystals and herbs that support your need, some of your hair to represent you, etc. You would make the bag whilst visualizing your intent coming to fruition. Medicine bags work well because you can add layers of magic by corresponding the colour of the bag with the crystals and the herbs to your intent, each adding another boost of power. Bags can also be fed regularly with magic sachet powder to keep the magic alive. Magic sachet powder. Although magic powders also have lots of other uses, they can be used to roll candles in for spell work, to sprinkle around your home for protection, to add oomph to rituals and any spells, to add to poppets and witch bottles, or to wear in a small bottle as a charm. The magic powder, called sachet powder in hoodoo, is used to feed the energy within your medicine pouch and keep the magic working. To make a magic powder, the ingredients you use must be ground, so you will need either a pestle and mortar or the end of a rolling pin and a solid bowl. As you add each ingredient to the bowl, charge it first with your intent. I also like to charge the powder as a whole once it is complete too. This can then be fed to your medicine bag each week, just a sprinkle. You can even boost the power by feeding it on the corresponding day of the week to your intent, or keep it in an airtight bottle or jar and use it for all sorts of other spell work. Use a suitable chant as you grind the powder together with your intent. Food magic. Working your spell into whatever you're baking or cooking or cooking you are doing. Or you can bake cookies, a cake, or bread with a specific intent in mind, and these are also useful in ritual for the feast. Add in corresponding herbs or spices, and you can also boost the magic for your intent. Witch bottles. I love using witch bottles. I always have 2 on the go in my house for protection, clearing out negative energies and bringing happiness to the home. These are so easy to make. You don't need special pretty bottles. You can just use old clean jam jars. In general terms, the witch bottles we make today are very similar to witch bottles found centuries ago. The structure is the same, but the intent differs quite a lot. Originally, was believed that witch bottles were created to protect against witches. They also used to contain all sorts of bodily fluids, hair and fingernail clippings. You can still use these if you wish. Basically, a witch bottle is a container of some sort, usually a jar or a bottle, which is filled with objects corresponding with and charged with a specific magical intent. Start with your jar or bottle, then charge each item before you add it, layering up the ingredients as you go. Poppets. It is a shame they have had so much bad press, but poppets are brilliant little people-shaped spell holders. When most people think of poppet, they automatically think of the voodoo doll, thanks to this item's negative portrayal in movies and on television. However, the use of dolls in sympathetic magic goes back several millennia. Back in the days of ancient Egypt, the enemies of Ramesses III, he had a lot, used wax images of the pharaoh to bring about his death. It wasn't uncommon for the Greeks to use sympathetic magic in workings related to love or war. Greek puppets called kolossoi were sometimes used to restrain a ghost, or even a dangerous deity, or to bind 2 lovers together. I like to think of a puppet as a person-shaped spell holder and use them for love, luck, protection, prosperity, and healing. Remember that puppets have a long tradition behind them, and that tradition is influenced by the magical practices of a wide range of cultures. Treat your puppets well, and they will do the same for you. Witches' ladders. The first recorded find of a witch's ladder was in 1886, during the repairs of an old house in Somerset, in England. Within the roof space, they found a pile of broomsticks, an old chair, and a length of braided cord, with a loop at one end and lots of cockerel feathers threaded through the braid. Over the years, there have been many theories as to the purpose of the braid, but the most popular seems to be that the ladder was for cursing, with ideas ranging from curdling the milk from a neighbour's cow to wishing somebody dead. Other ideas suggest that it was used for healing or casting wishes. The fact is, nobody really knows. The witch ladder is one of my favourite magical tools, and they are seen nowadays in many forms, but all usually with the basic braid of 3 cords together with feathers in between, often 9 of them. I also like to add sprigs of herbs to mine and a little bit of colour magic in the form of ribbons. Cord magic. Cord magic is essentially just that, magic using a cord. Often the cord is braided, plaited together, and it can be made from cord, twine, string, ribbon, or even fabric, or even natural items such as long grasses. Witch ladders are a sort of cord magic. The cord can be created and hung up above your altar or your bed or above a doorway, or it can be created for a personal intent and worn. Larger cords can be used as belts or smaller ones as worn as bracelets. You weave your intent into the cord as you braid it. Cords can also be created to honour specific deities. Cords can also be used to create a circle, especially useful if you're away from home and need to create a sacred space. Colour magic can also be brought in and the intent of the spell reflected in the colour of the cord or ribbons used. Knot magic. Long stems of grass really lend themselves to knot magic, but you can also use thin stems of plants such as ivy or even twine, string or ribbon. If you have the patience, you can weave a ball of grass and hang it up in your home to provide protection. You can also plait the longer stems to make witches' ladders. Long stems of grass can also be used for bindings and to control a person's movements, to stop them from causing harm, or to tie something down, magically, of course, not literally. You can bind pretty much any intent by sealing it with a knot. If you want a new job, a new dress, or maybe a holiday, pick your intent and tie the energy into a knot. And of course, that love kind of thing works very well with knot magic. Whether you want to tie your current relationship together or whether you want to just bring love your way, this can be done by binding the intent into a knot. Think about the hand fasting, or even some church weddings where the couple's hands are tied together. Must put a disclaimer in here with love magic. I find it personally wise to be mindful of the free will of another thing. It is obviously your choice if you choose to bind someone to you, but I urge you to think very carefully about the consequences. Tie a knot with your intent of prosperity, good health and luck, and hang it over your front door so that every time someone walks in, they bring the positive with them. If you are crafty, you can, of course, take the knot magic a step further and crochet, weave, or knit energy into something beautiful by putting the magic in as you create. Need to boost your memory or remember something important? Tie a knot in a piece of string and seal it. When you see the knot, you will know what you have to remember. Of course, you must remember exactly what it is you need to remember. Then there is the flip side of binding and knot magic, in that you can undo it too. You can unbind a spell, a curse, an influence, or negative energy. You can do this simply by binding the intent into the knot and then unraveling it. Curses and hexes can be bound into knot magic. Just say your curse out loud as you tie each knot. You can keep the knot magic simple by literally just visualizing or saying the intent as you tie the knot. Or you can put a whole ritual with candles, incense, and plinky plonky music. The choice is yours. You can even sprinkle the knot with corresponding herbs or dab with anointing oil. Make your own mini besom. Items you will need: a bunch of dried grass, straw, or dried woody herbs like lavender and rosemary, or a mix of all three. A straight branch or dowel about 25 centimetres, 10 inches in length. Some thin wire or twine for binding. Arrange the dried grass, straw, etc. evenly around one end of your branch. When you are happy with the arrangement, take your wire, twine, and wrap it around both and secure it tightly. Neaten the ends of the grass straw by trimming them with scissors. Hang the besom in your home for protection and use it to sweep away negativity from your altar or sacred space. Petition papers. Petition papers and name papers are slips of paper that you write a person's name on, a symbol, a sigil, a short phrase corresponding with the intent of your spell work. Mostly, the petition papers and name papers are placed under a candle, added to a mojo bag or a bottle. Name papers will have a person's name on, the intended recipient of the spell, whilst a petition paper will have a wish or a desire on. As a general guide for using petition papers, you should write the person's name or your wish on the slip of paper 3 times, then turn the paper 90 degrees clockwise, write the name or wish again 3 times over the top, of the first ones. The petition paper should then be dressed with a suitable oil blend. The petition paper is then folded. To draw things to you, the paper should be folded towards you. To banish something, fold the paper away from you. Either way, keep folding the paper until you can fold it no more. The petition paper that can then be placed under a candle, in a mojo bag, or in a bottle. Tarot spells. Using tarot spells, or indeed oracle cards in your spells, gives you a focal point and helps with visualization. They can be used as a signifier for a person, i.e. the person you are sending the healing to, or a curse. And they can also bring the power and energy of the card itself. So, for instance, the Lover's card could be used in a love spell to signify the couple, but also in a spell for a decision to choose between two different pathways. You can use your normal tarot set for spell work, but I prefer a separate deck that I use just for spell work. Sometimes the card needs to sit in the spell for a day or two, or even a few days, and I don't want to be doing tarot readings with cards missing. People in spells. Some spells will require a representation of either yourself or the recipient of the magic. What you use is up to you. Photographs work well because there is no doubt who the person is from the image, but you don't always have access to a photograph. A piece of their hair, toenail clipping, if you don't know the person well enough to have a photograph of them, I don't want to know how you're going to manage to get one of their toenail clippings, or a drop of blood works well too. If using bodily fluids is your thing, then menstrual blood, saliva, sweat, urine, or sexual fluids can be very effective. It is probably easier to get the personal body items if you are working magic for yourself or a family member. You can use something that reminds you of the person, such as their favourite flower or a piece of jewellery. Tarot cards work well as signifiers for specific people, a card that echoes their personality. Even a person-shaped potato will do. If you know quite categorically that it represents that person, pretty much anything can be used. Simply writing the name of the person on a piece of paper works just as well. Raising energy. How are you going to raise energy? You have probably discovered the best way for you to raise energy by now from your practice in lesson 2. So I won't discuss the various methods here. You are now ready to create your first spell, but don't forget to ground and center before and after casting. If your spell is successful, it is a nice idea to give thanks by doing something helpful to the universe. Homework. 1. Create a spell of your own design using one of the suggested types in this lesson. 2. Include a detailed step-by-step guide to your spell. Be very specific about your intent and your reasons for choosing each component. Use the following template. What is my intent? Be very specific. Why do I want to cast this spell? Who will it affect? Be directed at. Where will I cast the spell? When will I cast it? What day? What moon phase? What time? What type of spell will I work? What items will I need? Candles, herbs, crystals, etc. What chant will I use? Will I call in a deity? 3. Cast the spell and write a detailed report on your experience. How did it feel? Do you need to change anything? 4. If you called in a deity to aid with your spell, write up why you chose that deity and what correspondences they have to your intent. If you didn't call upon a deity, what one could you have connected with and why? 5. Devise a spell using not magic. Detail how you created it and what you used. 6. Make your own mini besom and describe what you used and why. Please include a photograph. Homework for each lesson should be emailed to your mentor, Ness or Heather, at the usual address, and there is further study provided.